Every single day, our lives are just a constant series of choices, right? Big ones, small ones, they all add up. But what if I told you there's actually a science behind making those choices? A way to really understand why you pick one thing over another?
Okay, let's take this one. This is a classic dilemma, isn't it? That immediate thrill of a brand new gadget versus, the smart long-term security of just saving that money. I mean, we've all been there, right? Standing at that crossroads, weighing the pros and cons.
And right there, in that exact moment of decision, you're actually practicing economics. No, really. It's not just about complicated charts and Wall Street and global markets. It's about the simple choices you make every single day.
All right, so let's break that down a bit. At its very core, economics is really just the study of how we make decisions when we can't have everything we want. You could almost think of it as the ultimate guide for navigating all of our choices.
And this gets to the single biggest problem that economics is trying to solve. Here's the deal. On one side, we've got our limited resources. Only so much money, so much time, so many materials. But on the other side, our wants are basically endless. We always want more stuff, better experiences, you name it. And that fundamental conflict, that tension right there, that is the heart of economics. So that brings us to a nice, clean definition. Economics is the social science that studies how all of us, from you and me to entire countries, try to figure out how to bridge that massive gap between what we have and what we want. Okay, so to understand all this stuff, economists basically use two different lenses to look at the world. It's kind of like using a camera, right? You can either zoom way in for the small details or zoom way out for the big picture. So first up, we have microeconomics. This is the zoom-in lens. It focuses on the small stuff, individual units, like you, the consumer, or a single business. It's asking questions like, hey, why is the price of sugar suddenly going up? Then you have macroeconomics. This is where we zoom out and look at the whole shebang. We're talking about the economy of an entire country, things like inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. This is where we tackle those massive questions that affect absolutely everyone. So you've got the big picture and the tiny details. But let's bring this all back down to earth, back to you. How does all this theory actually play out in your everyday life? Well, you probably use it way more than you think. Think about it in three huge ways. First off, just managing your personal finances. Anytime you make a budget or decide to save up instead of splurge, yep, that's you using economic principles. Second, understanding prices. You ever see the cost of groceries go up and wonder what's going on? That's economics in action. It's all about supply and demand. And third, big life choices, like your career and education. Deciding what to study or what job to take, that's a massive economic decision, where you're weighing the potential salary against what you're actually passionate about. But listen, it's not just about money. Not at all. One of the most critical resources you have is something you can never, ever get back, and that's your time. And believe me, economics has a really powerful way of thinking about this. And this brings us to a concept that is an absolute game changer. It's called opportunity cost. And here's what it means. The real cost of any choice you make isn't just the money you spend. It's the value of the next best alternative you had to give up to make that choice. Let me give you a simple example. Say you spend 3 hours binge watching a TV show. The cost isn't zero, right? The opportunity cost is the 3 hours of studying you could have done instead, or maybe it's the time you could have spent with family or working on that side hustle. See? Every single choice has a hidden cost. It's the value of the path you didn't take. All right, now let's zoom back out and see how this all scales up. Because these exact same principles, we're talking scarcity, choice, opportunity cost, they don't just apply to you and me. They apply to the biggest companies and even governments on the entire planet. Look at a business. It has limited resources, right? Factories, employees, money. So it has to make these huge decisions. What are we going to produce? How much of it? At what price? Those are all microeconomic choices. And it's the same for a government. It also faces limits on what it can do. It uses macroeconomics to make these giant decisions about taxes and spending and all the policies that affect the entire nation's well-being. Here's a perfect real-world example of how this works. Let's say a government decides to increase fuel prices. That's a big macroeconomic policy decision. But what happens next? Well, that decision immediately trickles down. All of a sudden, it costs more to transport everything: food, clothes, electronics, you name it. And guess who ends up paying for that? You do, the consumer. So you see, the big picture stuff directly hits you right in the wallet. So what does this all mean? Well, understanding these concepts isn't just for passing a test in school. It's like gaining a new superpower, seriously. It gives you a whole new framework for making smarter, more deliberate choices in pretty much every part of your life. At the end of the day, understanding economics just plain helps you make better decisions. It can help you build more financial stability for yourself. You'll start to see the direct line between a news headline about inflation and the price you're paying for milk. And maybe most importantly, it teaches you how to use all your precious resources, your money, your time, your energy, so much more efficiently. So, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Economics isn't some dusty old subject you study in a classroom. It's a tool. It's a tool that you can use every single day. It's really the art of making the best possible choices with the limited resources we all have so that we can live the most unlimited life possible. And trust me, that is a skill that is absolutely worth mastering.